Let's improvise the gear and sequence we need to aid climb a short section of rock. Hello all, I'm Jason. I spent a good 2 years under the monthly tutelage of a very experienced high-altitude guide, and he often talked about how many climbs end up being freed except for just one small section of aid. So he taught me an improvised aid sequence. Imagine we are up on some Alpine adventure wearing indelicate boots, and we come to an overhanging section of rock on which we couldn't trust our feet, or we come to a small seam too thin for a finger crack. We swallow the lost free ascent and decide to aid the sequence. How do we do so with only the gear we might already have on our harness? First, we need to improvise 3 pieces of equipment. I take the 240 centimeter sling I carry and turn it into an aider. I set the bar tack at the bottom, which ensures the bottom stays open as a step. Then I add an overhand on a bite to lock off that section. Now I add in 3 more overhands on a bite, but pulling in additional slack on alternating strands, resulting in offset loops that will better stay open. I add a carabiner to the top. If I didn't carry a 240 centimeter sling, I could do this with 2 120 centimeter slings, building each half as previously described, but then girth hitching the bottom section to the top section at the top sling's bar tack. Now we make a daisy chain. I take my 90 centimeter sling and add knots again. This time they do not need to be offset. I want my daisy to run from my belay loop to the end of my hand so I can add in another small prusik-sized sling. We can girth hitch the daisy to our belay loop. For a fifi hook, I can just use a quick draw, clip through the hard points on my harness, leaving the belay loop for the daisy and the other side of my hard points for my rope. Next, we need to prepare our gear placements. In essence, we need enough independent clip points that we can move all of the equipment we just created without them trapping one another. So whether for cams, for nuts, or anything else, we want 3 carabiner connection points so as not to trap the aider, daisy, or fifi we just created as we move that equipment. We can make do with 2 points in a pinch. It's okay that some of this stuff isn't fall rated. We will only be clipping the rope through our gear in normal ways. All this improvised stuff needs to be able to hold is a little more than our body weight. Okay, so we are ready to climb. In this indoor setup, let's consider all the gray carabiners to be representative of the cam or the nut that we place onto the wall, and then we have our 3 carabiner setup. We start by placing a piece of gear in the highest good position we can reach. Next, we clip our daisy to the gear at the lowest hanging connection point. We can then add our fifi into the daisy and tug test the gear. Now we take our aider and clip into the higher connection point on the gear, and we walk our way up the aider. Once high enough, we fifi into the piece. Time to place our next piece, again as high as we can while making a good placement. Once we have our next piece in, knowing we aren't going to be stuck in our current placement, we can add our rope into that currently weighted placement. Now it's time to remove our daisy from the weighted placement and move it to the new gear we just put in, again clipping it to the lowest connection point. At this point, we are repeating the cycle. Test the piece, move the aider from the lower piece to the upper piece, walk up the aider, fifi into the upper piece, place a third piece, clip the rope into the second piece, and so on. We also have the option, should we be worried about running out of gear, of back cleaning from below us, so long as we always have 2 pieces in, a weighted piece and a backup with the rope clipped through. Even then, we may want to leave certain pieces in so that we have multiple pieces in place to catch a fall if we have some extended vertical to ascend. Have you aid climbed either improvised or standard? Let us know your experience in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you want to support us. For more information, you can go to our website at www.shortguysbetaworks.com. If you like improvised solutions, you can check out a video about an improvised climbing harness. I took up a multi-pitch route, or maybe check out our entire rock climbing safety series. We'll see you next week and keep on getting more out of that big outside.